Hey guys, what's up? Can you guys hear the music or not? Yes or no? I feel like you guys. No, no music. Alrighty. Madness says cannot hear the music. I wonder why. And should we try to fix it now or just let it be? Try one thing. I say let it be. Give me one more second to try to understand and then we'll go start a sketching. Okay, never mind. How is everybody doing? Where are you guys joining me from? Today we will be finishing this piece by doing some marker. Welcome Madness, Anton, everybody. Yes, we're gonna go do some marker work today, some value separation work of the different materials. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. Share where you're joining from. And how do you think we should name that guy right here? I'm going for a very mid-tones look for both the skin tone and the cloth. I don't want there to be a lot of contrast. And I feel like it's too detailed right now and I kind of want to push all those details back a bit. Or group them. It's a better description of what I'm trying to do. Because right now it's detail, 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 detail. I don't know where to look. So I'm gonna group them all into this mid-tone range value. I'm using CG28 Web Gray by Ohuhu markers. I really like their markers. They're cheap, good. Welcome, Ale Love Graphite, Michelle, Barry. A lot of people joining us today. Welcome, guys. Now, the way I do the marker work is in a method called No10, which means I first do the whole thing in black and white, and only then I add the hues. A Loves Graphics says, hey, welcome. The reason why I do it that way is it helps focus more on the values and then more on the color by separating them, rather than trying to choose a marker and get both the value and the hue right. So it's easier, and I think it brings better results. Mona says, I need to pick up the pencil again. This is beautiful. Thank you. Also, welcome to everyone who's joining me on YouTube. Ananta says, damn, it's a fire, dude. Thank you. Godlike Speed says, shout out me, go chiller. Whatever that means. Yes, we are streaming both on Instagram and YouTube at the same time. Even though the music is not working, but I'll fix it for next time. And okay, so what I'm trying to do with the marker is do a material separation. So you see the bandages on his hands are kind of wrapping around, but because there's so much details, you can't really tell what is cloth versus what is bandage versus what is the cloth that he's wearing. So I'm gonna do a little value separation between them to make it more obvious. Also indicate that this is an elbow. It's when I do the ink drawing, the ink sketching, I get so caught up in details. I'm just trying to add more and more details. But once I finish the drawing, then it comes like to do an overall evaluation and says, okay, how can we make it more clear? How can we group different details into the same value system, value group, to create separation, to create a clear focal point, to control the hierarchy of point of contrast, etc., etc. One says, who is this character? What's the story? Well, I'm not gonna give that away. I wanna hear what you guys think. I feel like that's way more interesting than what I intended. So whoever has a theory on what's going on here, feel free to throw that in the chat and I'll check and see. Welcome, Tivar, Romulu, Dipasha, welcome. Hybrid Rainbow asks, how do you deal with art block? It's a very good question. There are a few things that help me. One is I like to go to a museum, to a museum or a gallery, and just kind of like look at stuff and think of new ideas and kind of fish for inspiration. Another thing I like to do is go to the movie theaters and watch a movie and really be immersed in that movie. A lot of time it gives me the energy to create something myself. Another thing I like to watch, an online course, a tutorial, or just an art talk. Sometimes it kind of get me into the groove of creating just by listening to other people create. And then the last thing is to actually buy some new art supply and some new material and kind of try that out. So yeah, so these are like the 4 things that help me to get out of my art block. Welcome Alma, Kaum, welcome everybody on Instagram and on YouTube. Yeah, I feel like art block usually is happening because of a burnout or an anxiety or just stress of doing something. or just boredom, like you're bored of what you're creating, so you don't feel like creating that anymore. So there are many reasons for that. But I feel like there's also always a solution, and also you don't necessarily need to resolve it immediately. It's okay not to draw every day, all day. If you don't feel like it, then you don't do it. It's supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be like, it doesn't have to be a task. Is what I'm saying. Welcome, Sun Arts, Christian. Yeah, so you see how just by using the marker, I'm able to separate the different materials and indicate what's what. And also group all those details into a mid-tone that's like kind of dark gray. And you can still see the details, right? They're not lost, it's not pure black. But now they're more hinted as opposed to like in your face. If up until now they were the first read, now they're the secondary read, and the first read would be the actual silhouette, more like the thumbnail read of it. And the way I'm deciding which markers to use where, I actually do a lot of rehearsal. So I do a thumbnail sketch for this illustration, and I do like tons of those, like 9 different thumbnail sketch. Each one takes me like 2 minutes, and then I practice on those thumbnails different kind of value system and different markers. And then the one that looks good on a thumbnail level, that's kind of like what I'm writing on the side. I use this marker for this many layers on this section and this, and now I bring it back to the final illustration. So I'm kind of like practicing on the side before I commit to my decision. Same for the hues, but I found that the hues, or in other words, the colors, is way easier once the values are working. That's why I like separating them. And I would even argue, not a lot would agree, that check. Can you guys hear me all right? Let me get the microphone closer to me. Can you guys hear me all right? Yeah, so, yes, okay, everybody says, okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, what I was about to say, I would argue that if the values are working, whatever color you're gonna put on it, it's always it's gonna work too. Now, is it gonna work well? Not necessarily. Is it gonna tell the same story? Not necessarily, but it is gonna work. It's not gonna change the focal point or the point of interest. However, if the values are wrong, then the colors wouldn't look good, whatever you do. That's kind of like my take on it. So I try to focus on the luminance value a lot more than on the colors. Dipasha says, tell us the story behind this character. Okay, since you guys aren't writing your opinions in the chat, I'll have to tell you. So this character to me was supposed to be a guy that is in battle, fighting, and then he comes back home and he is asking for forgiveness for everything that he's done in battle, and asking for forgiveness not in terms of he's afraid that he's gonna be punished, right? And he's asking for forgiveness for all the sins that he's done. So it's like a spiritual kind of like way of placing the hand. He's like praying, right? And that piece is to kind of, it's like his memory, or his like this guy is like a metaphor of the battle, right? Because he's wearing a helmet and all of that. And yeah, but I'm curious to hear kind of like what you make of it. My story theory is that he's an undead, dishonored prince, resurrected by a witch, and now on a quest to find out his past and to find redemption. I don't know. Yeah, you were close on the redemption part of it. Yeah. I feel like the redemption was the word that I was missing in describing it. But the pose is supposed to capture this like intimate moment when you are with yourself and kind of praying without anyone seeing you, you know, and you're really sad about something and you really ask for forgiveness, and that's kind of like what the pose is supposed to show. You were close, yeah, you are close. Welcome, Dave. Elaine. Yeah, I think the way you pose the character is one of the most effective tools to tell your story. Obviously, the expression, and then what I like to do in my illustration is to give the context or the setting of where the story takes place. Not within the environment work, which is how you usually place your character inside a world. You paint the world. I like to do it through costume and wardrobe and cloth. And I like to challenge myself. I'm like, how do I make, for example, let's see. This is not a good example, but like, how can you indicate that someone is in the desert without sketching the desert? And then I kind of like sketch the costume. Alright, thanks for joining. Welcome, Cactus Nib Experiments. Alright, now we'll move on to the basically the rest, which is the body skin tone and the head and everything. And I'm gonna use this 081 basic gray. This super cheap marker from Blick, but I like it. Yeah, and feel free to ask any questions in the chat. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna do a first wash of everything. Obviously that is the character, not the background, and not that guy. And then I'm gonna do multiple washes covering different sections to kind of push and pull the values. So first I'm gonna start with the edge. And I'm trying, this is not necessary, but I'm trying to color it while wrapping around the form. It doesn't really matter, but I still try to do it that way. Whoops, microphone fell. Welcome NZP. Who do we got here? Tenzet, Tipasha, Madness, Chug. Welcome guys. Anyway, I'm making tons of new materials for a new, I don't know if it's gonna be a course or a workshop, but stay tuned. It's gonna be ready in a few weeks. That's what I've been working on very hard in the past few weeks, and I'm really excited about it. Yeah, so you see how it already kind of helps grouping the all the details, right? And they're not so loud as here, you know. I actually, guys, tell me what you think. I need the chat opinion here. Do you think I should even add color to it after I'm done with the values? 'Cause I feel like it works as like a 2-3 value kind of like illustration. I don't know. We'll finish and then we can decide. Yeah, I really like how those two values look one next to each other. Let's see what's going on in YouTube land. Oh. Yeah, YouTube. Alright, let's do the edges here. I feel like this marker is dying on me. Okay, so here we're actually gonna do the hair in the same value. And the separation is gonna be in the helmet. Because there's an overlap between the hair and the helmet. We're gonna let the marker rest for a second because it's dying on me. Welcome everybody in the chat on YouTube. Zimmerer, welcome. Nacho, welcome. Frank. Tenzet. Ilham. Alright, here we should be careful about the hair strand. Manatonic says was Frank says fire. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining, guys. Welcome, Ghosty Maker, Manatonic. I see familiar names. Hair, and I always make the head hair silhouette this kind of shape. I feel like it adds a bit of weirdness that I like, and a mystery. It's like, what the fuck is this shape? And interest. It kind of breaks the cliche, and it's like you wonder what is he covering underneath it. And the reason why I choose markers over watercolors or an ink wash, which some would argue is more suitable for this kind of job, I just really like the texture that the markers give. You know, they give this like DIY kid just filled in the blanks vibe, and I like it. I like everything that makes things look handmade. You know, I like to emphasize the texture and the craft. I think partially because my day job is to do those stuff digitally in Photoshop. And when you do those things on the computer, they just come out too perfect. And which is, you know, what they ask you to do. Usually, like when you work for a studio, you need to come up with like the best looking painting, and that's like part of the job. But I feel like when it's too polished and perfect, it takes away the feeling of a human touch, especially your voice, you know, that comes out through your mistakes and your shorthand. So that's kind of like why when I do those stuff, I always use the most main, like, traditional tools I can think of that leave all those traces, you know, because I feel like those traces is who you are as an artist, and you don't wanna hide them when you make your art. You wanna emphasize that's who you are, you know, that's your signature. Menatonic says, now that I see it more finished, it kind of reminds me of Frank Miller's Sin City. Ah, thank you, I love that movie. High contrast, very stylized pose, girls with bold eyelines and sad faces. Oh, he's not a girl, he's a boy. But thank you, I appreciate it. You see how beautiful those marks are, you know? And you only achieve it with markers. Like, I mean, you can get other cool effects with watercolors, but they won't be as like handmade DIY vibe as markers, especially cheap markers like those from Blick. All right, so that was like the first layer, and now I'm gonna give this marker a few seconds to breathe. Maybe I'll shake it, and then I'll go into the second layer. Stravazila says hi. Hope I'm pronouncing it right. Trazarlavida. Who else we got here? Motiamar, the one and only. Kaushik Paul, Chad. And who do we have on YouTube? Some people on YouTube too. Alrighty, let's go into the second layer, which job is to create a slight separation between the bandages and the skin tone, because they're supposed to be a bit lighter. So my second pass would be around them. My second layer, I mean. And I'm using the same marker, which is Basic Gray 081. Yeah, so you see, even one additional layer already creates a separation of materials, you see. And you don't even have to go through all the skin tone. You just need to do it on where they meet, and then create like a fall off gradient into the skin tone. So it's okay if I leave this part empty. It's actually better, because then I have more contrast between the hair and the skin tone. So everything that is around the bandages, I'll start my second pass on to create that material separation. And notice there is no colors yet. This is just value work, you know. And you see how I already make it pop out. Meital, the one and only, welcome. And then I'm gonna do a third pass, and also I'm gonna play with the. I'm gonna use the same technique that I've done here to bring the bandages out to the eyes as well, but that's about to come. All right. So, and then here it's a dilemma because, oh hey Destiny Log, welcome, thank you. There is two materials here. I mean, not two, there is the bandages and then there are the wear and tear of the bandages, right? But I like, and now it's a creative choice, do I group the tear with the bandages or with the skin tone? And I'm gonna choose the skin tone because I like the silhouette of the bandages, so I want them to be brighter. So I'm gonna say, let's start my second layer here and then kind of group that together with the skin tone. Yeah, because I like that kind of wrapping shape, so I want to bring it out more and push the rest back. And now you see that here it actually works nice that it's bright against dark. So I'm not gonna take my second wash onto that part. I'm just gonna leave it bright and create a gradient. And here I'm gonna do it too, to separate the bandage from the skin. But I'm not gonna take the wash all the way to the entire thing. I'm just gonna do it where they meet to bring it out. And also because this marker is dying on me, that's fine. Same here. I wanna bring the bandage forward and push the skin backward. So I'm gonna do a second layer around the silhouette. And by the way, this is also an opportunity to fix your sketch, meaning that if you're not happy with the shape that you got from the pen, now is the time to fix it with the marker. Yeah, so it's already popping up a bit. I would say not as much as I'd like, so I might go there again. And here I'm just gonna leave it the same. Meaning that I like that the separation is happening here. Here it's not mandatory. I mean, maybe I'm just gonna push it a bit out. But now what I'm gonna do, because I want the eyes to be brighter a bit, I'm gonna go around it with my second layer and make everything darker in comparison to bring the eyes out. And then here, whenever I have large chunks of emptiness, I like to give it a bit of variety in value. So I might darken it here a bit, and maybe here, create a bit of a variation. Now I'm gonna give the marker a second to breathe, and then I'm gonna do my third wash to emphasize the separation here even more, to brighten the eyes even more in comparison. And I might actually do another layer just on the hair to separate the hair from the head. So we'll see how that'll come into play. All right. And here I'm really only touching the areas that touch each other. So whenever the two value groups are touching each other, that's when I'm doing my third layer. And I'm not worrying about the rest. Welcome Afnan, welcome everybody. Let's see if we got you. And welcome to all the people on YouTube. We're also on YouTube. All right. Alrighty, third layer. The goal is to create a brighter bandages. And then now here it's tricky because I want to go around the eyes to make the eyes brighter, but I don't want to go all the way to the forehead because I want the forehead to be brighter than the hair. So we're going to cheat it a bit. So let's see if we can pull this off. Yeah, and if I'm kind of taking a step back and looking at it, I can already tell that the eyes are a bit kind of popping out a bit. Maybe that one is more than that one. But what I want is I want the hair to be in a different group than the forehead. So I think I was able to do it here. You see, you can see the hair and then you see the forehead is a bit brighter. Yeah, so now I think we've established the separation point, and now it's just kind of like repeating the process. Maybe I'll do a bit of separation between the hair and the neck. And obviously that guy stays in white, this stays in white. Yeah, I feel like I need a bit of separation between the ear and the hair. So I'm gonna try to push that too. This is something I've done a lot when I was doing when I'm doing environment painting. When you do environment painting, you have, think of like a landscape that starts from where you take the photo and into very far away. And the way you kind of separate all the, you know, the mountains or the buildings or the trees or whatever you have is by creating that kind of value separation. So that's kind of like where I brought that methodology. Only here we don't have a landscape, we have a figure, but it's the same concept. It's how do we create clarity by grouping different elements and also creating order in all this mess. You saw the line work, it was tons of details all over the place. It wasn't clear on what you need to look at. And then you had to make a creative decision. What's the focal point? The eyes. Okay, let's put some contrast here. My second focal point, the bandages. Okay, let's push them forward. and the rest backward. And so it's almost like you create a map and then you put an arrow on where you want people to look. The map would be like the line sketch. Alright, let's do another layer of separation until we completely break this marker. This $2 marker from Blick Studio. Yeah, now it's already really starting to pop. Yeah, now it's almost starting to look like it was done by two different markers and not the same one. Which, by the way, it's also something you can do. You can choose a marker per value. But the reason why I like to do it with the same marker is I feel like the layering, the act of layering, create a cool effect by itself. Like you see how it almost creates these gradients that you might not get if you just use one marker for one layer for one value. Once you use one marker for multiple layers, you start to get all this nice looking variation, especially in the big shapes. And it's also more fun. Hey, Slivinivas! How's it going? This marker is dying on me. Alright. Let's shake it a bit, maybe that'll help. Alright, let's do another layer here. I like how his eyes popping out. It's almost like they're white, but they're not. I did a layer on them at the beginning, if you guys remember. And then let's do another one for the hair to differentiate it from the forehead. And it's like glazing in oil painting. Exactly. It's exactly what it is. Or maybe layering watercolors. Yep, it's exactly that too. But working with cheap art supplies really makes you take decisions you would otherwise not make. For example, this marker is dead, is less than dead. So I can't even use it to color everything. So I'm just gonna leave it as is, which is a decision I would never make if I would use Photoshop or watercolors or a good marker. And I feel like it gives it like a cool feel, you know. So I feel like when you choose your art supplies, choose ones that add a little bit of limitation to your workflow, because that limitation would force you to think outside the box to find solution to handle it, which is fun, but also it makes you, I don't know, it brings out decisions that otherwise you would not have to take it. And I also feel like cheap art supplies bring out more of the like humanity in you when you use them, because they're not perfect, which is, I feel like, one of the most important things when creating an illustration is to bring as much more of you into the art. It doesn't have to be the good side of you, it has to be you. It cannot be generic, it cannot be perfect tools, it cannot be, you know, it has to be you and your mistakes and your imperfection and your shortcomings. And I feel like cheap art supplies helps bring it out from you. All right, should we give it another layer? Let me see. Let me squint. Yeah, let's do one last one and then we'll call it a day. Welcome, Pradumna, Alessandro, Kozu, Elise, Anna Shchazde, welcome. Joining us all the way from Georgia. Last layer before we kill this sketchbook and before we throw this marker into the trash and we say goodbye to it. We say goodbye and we say thank you for all the hard work it has done to us. It was definitely worth the $2. Welcome, Kozu. A lot of people joining us today and on YouTube. It's happening on YouTube. Chris says, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Thank you for joining. Srivinivas says, nice illustration. Thank you so much. Alright gang, we are closing. We're getting close to the end of this one. Alright guys, last thing on the agenda. What should we name that guy? Put your names in the chat. Your names ideas. Alright, so today we've kind of learned how to do note-on illustration, value separation, how to push and pull different element group details together, and yeah, and use cheap markers to do so. David Moody, Jack says. I like it. David it is. Alright gang, thank you for joining. Solar, Pentatonic says solar. I like that. Any more suggestions? Alright gang, that'll be all for today. Thanks for joining. See you next time. And keep an eye on my posting of the finished piece. And my Instagram probably gonna be tomorrow. Yeah. Jack says, thank you so much. This is eye-opening. Thank you for joining. And stay tuned for, I'm working a lot on a big series of how I make those, but that'll be ready in a few weeks. So keep an eye for those as well. Alright, have a good night. See ya, Kozu. Bye bye.